really good stuff today. So looking forward to connecting with you guys in just a few minutes. Give everybody maybe about 2 more minutes. So I'm going to turn the music back on and put the header up, and we'll get going from there. All right. In the meantime, for those of you that are already on, I would love for you to put in the chat box, if there's one thing you walk away from this training with, what would that be? So if there's one thing that you would walk away from this training with, what would that be? Go ahead and put that in the chat box.
Taking my life in vengeance. Yeah, you can try and blame us and try and take what's sacred, but we're not nameless, we're not faceless, we were born for greatness. Somebody sound the alarm. Fire was set in the dark. It's time that you know. No, we're not nameless, we're not faceless, we were born for greatness. It doesn't matter if the world is gone mad, if we just hold on, if we just hold on, yeah. The sky is falling and the world is gone mad, and we sing our songs and we just hold on, yeah. So if you're running, stop running. One life, one chance, start living. Sing it louder just to let the world know. No, we're not nameless, we're not faceless, we were born for greatness. We're not nameless, we're not faceless, we were born for greatness. No, we're not nameless, we're not faceless, we were born for greatness. It's time that you know. It doesn't matter if the world is gone mad, if we just hold on, if we just hold on, yeah. Sing it louder just to let the world know. No, we're not nameless, we're not faceless, we were born for greatness. No, we're not nameless, we're not faceless, we were born for greatness. No, we're not nameless, we're not faceless, we were born for greatness. We were born for greatness. No, we're not nameless, we're not faceless, we were born for greatness.
Everyone, we are going to get started. So welcome to the reset with GPS and 411. It was interesting because Nathan had reached out to me. I'm a KW. I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Chris Lagarde. I am a KWU approved trainer as well as a MAPS coach. I also run a team out of the Exton Market Center, not far from you guys, depending on exactly which market center you're in. I've been in real estate for 15 years. Been married for 18. Have 4 kids ranging from 14 down to 4. And I'm also a member of the National Social Equity Task Force that Gary Keller started a few months ago. And I'm very excited about what's going to be happening there. We are going to be releasing a GPS shortly of what we intend to do and how we intend to create equity with the Black community. And that's something I'm very passionate about. So we've been working very, very hard on that. And I know that from Keller Williams International, there hasn't been a ton of communication about that, but I do want to make y'all aware of that. And if you have any questions and you don't know who to talk to regarding that, I'd be happy to field questions outside of today on that. And so here's what we're going to do today. Goals for the class are very goal related because we're going to talk about your GPS, which stands for goal, priority, strategy. I really like to call that a business plan. Because GPS, it's just Keller speak for, a business plan in a lot of ways. And one of the things I've heard Gary say before is that he always finds it funny that people have these 21 or, multiple page business plans when the purpose of a business plan is to get everybody on the same page. Yet it's more than one page. So the GPS ideally should fit on one page, right? And so we're going to be talking about how do we take your goals for the year. And I'm going to be honest, you can run these goals out farther than a year with a GPS. and if you wanted to. It's just a matter of like, how do you break these down on the 411? And then how do you use a 411 to stay on track? And even beyond a 411, what are the habits and routines you need to make sure that your 411 is actually being implemented at a high level and you're staying on track? In fact, I think it was, Michael had said, actually it was Tara who had said, sticking to your goals. How do you stick to your goals? And this is one of those classes that we can help you to do that. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then, Michael, you had said understanding the interaction between the 411 and GPS. So that's the goal of the class. I really would like you to walk away from this with a clear enough understanding that you can create your own business plan in 411. That's the goal today. And ground rules. I am really, really going to ask y'all, besides Tara and I, to turn your video on, please. I would really like to see who I'm teaching, and who we're interacting with. I don't care if you're in the car. Trust me, I have Zoom calls all day long with high level, folks that are in the car or whatever. If you're not, how do I want to say this? Appropriately dressed, don't turn your camera on. Right? Let's just keep it professional. But, I don't care if you're in a t-shirt, whatever it is, I would love to see some faces, Denise, Tonya, Michael, Sheila, iPhone. It would be great to see you guys. I do want to make this interactive. And so that's another one of my ground rules is like what these classes tend to do is online anyway with Zoom is we tend to listen and get distracted. In fact, I was talking to somebody this morning about how easy it is to be distracted on these. And if we're distracted on a training like this, it's going to be really hard to implement what we're doing. So do your best to stay focused and to be in an environment that allows you to focus, right? And if you're not there, it's like, hey, I want to listen in and you're driving. I'm okay with that too, but do your best to help yourself focus. Schedule. I actually intend, thank you, Michael. And who do I have on iPad? If you want to unmute yourself and tell me or put it in the chat, I'm good with either one. I just want to know who we've got here. So the schedule, I intend to get us out of here before 1:30. What we're going to do is we're going to go over basically what does it look like to aim high and set some goals. Why is aiming high important? What's the difference between commitment and interest? That's really important as well. So we're going to start with that, and then I'm going to do a quick refresh on setting goals. I actually have a spreadsheet and a tool that you guys can plug a few numbers in and get absolute clarity on how many appointments you need to hold and how many listings you need to take, buyer and seller listings you need to take to hit your income goal. So we're gonna do that in just a few minutes. So we're gonna do that, and then we're gonna tackle. We should be at about 12 o'clock. We should be covering the GPS. We're gonna talk about what is it, how do you create one, how do you use it, what are the best practices, and then by 12:30 we're gonna talk about 411. Again, what is it, how do you create one, how do you stay on top of it, what are the best practices, and then I'm gonna leave the last half hour for a workshop and or questions and answers. Because as a coach, I find a lot of people have a hard time really implementing the use of these tools at a high level. And these can be very, very powerful when done right. So let me start by asking, we only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or so folks here. I would love for, if you want to unmute yourself and tell me, or you want to put it in the inbox or the chat box, I'd love to hear how long have you been in the business, and are you clear on what your goals are for 2021?
Don't know if you want to call on anybody, but I'll go first.
Great.
Hey.
I will if I have to. Thanks, Michael.
Hey, Chris, I'm Mike DeReamer, and everybody, hello. I've been in the business 5 years. I am at the Keller Williams Central PA locations out of Enola, of course. And I'm pretty clear on my goals. At least I was pretty clear on my goals until the beginning of this year. I'm trying to adjust them accordingly. But as with the nature of real estate, my goals are kind of bouncing between where I wanted them to be and my lowered expectation, trying not to set it too high. So still kind of fluctuating with the way the market's behaving, but I think I'm pretty tight on them.
Just real quick, how is the market in Central PA? What are you finding?
We actually had a very interesting leadership discussion just yesterday of, we're experiencing a little bit of a slowdown. Not that things aren't still moving really fast, but about a month ago, things were on fire. Property selling within like 24 hours, 10 offers on properties, craziness. And now some things that we've expected to behave in that same manner aren't going as fast as we had thought. And we're discussing, is it slowing down, or maybe people adjusting to a new normal, getting used to a new job routine, getting their kids back in school, whatever that looks like. And maybe people have a lot of distractions in this moment.
Yeah, we're starting to see a slowdown in you know, the quarantine really shifted a lot of business, you know, a couple months forward. And so the last couple months for us here in Chester County have been really crazy, but we're definitely starting to see a slowdown in the rate of new clients signing on in our leading indicators. So, okay, great. All right, Vince, Tara, Nate, Tonya, Philip, how about you guys? How long you been in the business, and how clear are you on your goals for next year?
So my name is Tara. Hi, everyone. I've been in the business. This is my third year. August 8th was my third year anniversary. I didn't set my goals for 2020. 2021. I did set my goals for 2020, and I'm definitely not on target. I think I started out good, and then when COVID hit, I kind of fell backwards and doing much. And but I think I'm, from my first year in real estate, I did one deal. My second year, I did 2 deals, and this year I closed 4 deals, and I got 1 deal pending.
So you doubled your business. I mean, okay. So you didn't hit the goals that you wanted to hit, but you doubled your business, more than doubled. I mean, if you close that deal before the end of the year, give or take, I mean, that's fantastic. Very few people can do that, right?
I had a deal that didn't close the day before closing because of COVID. I want to say I think my client got COVID, but I'm not sure. I'm not really clear what happened. So that didn't close, and then, with the market, one of my buyers put a hold on it because she couldn't bid higher, and she kept losing. So
okay, cool. Who else? I don't know, Positive Energy wants to say something, or Nate, Tonya, Philip. How long you been in the business, and are you clear on your goals for the year?
My name is Vince. This is 1 month in. I'm absolutely clear exactly what I got to do.
Okay.
Meet one of the maps it all out.
Okay.
And I'm on the MREA.
Sorry, Vince, go ahead.
I'm on the MREA every day implementing the principles.
Okay. What did you do before you got into real estate, Vince?
I was managing LA Fitness Sports Clubs for about 10 years. I'm a certified personal trainer, massage therapist, so servicing human beings.
Nice. I figured. Yeah, you look like you could bench some weight. So
hence the gun, right?
Yeah, that's good. All right, so here we're gonna get moving. If anybody has anything, so again, a couple people, Philip, and I don't know the young woman that joined us, B Shirk. Not sure what your first name is. Let us know, and I'll make sure to call you by the right first name. So I would love that you guys are here. We're just doing a few introductions, and now I'm gonna kind of get started with a couple of things, regarding all of this. And so what I would like to do, I'm gonna put a link into the chat box, and what I'm gonna ask you guys to do is please, if you're familiar with Google, you can actually make your own copy of this for yourself. And Brittany, awesome. So make a copy of this, and you'll see how this plays in just a minute. So don't play with it just yet. So first I want to talk about goals. And there was a saying that I saw a while back that I thought was really interesting. It said, there's a difference between commitment versus interest. And I would love to hear from you guys, maybe 1 or 2 of you. What is the difference in your mind between commitment and interest?
Commitment would be actually having it all written down and measurable, and interest is just basically a dream.
I like that. So you got it written down. It's clear. It's measurable. If you're just interested, it's kind of more of a dream. Who else? There are no wrong answers, by the way.
Chicken and the pig analogy.
What's that?
The chicken and the pig analogy.
What's that? Tell me more.
So if you have a bacon and eggs breakfast, the chicken has an interest. The pig is committed.
I've never heard that before. I like it. Absolutely. Yeah, the pig is certainly committed. Yeah, the saying that I saw went like this. You know, there is a difference between being interested and committed. If you're interested, you do it when it's convenient. If you're committed, you accept no excuses. So again, if you're interested, you do it only when it's of convenience. And if you're committed, you'll accept no excuses, right? If your child is in mortal danger, you become absolutely 100% committed to getting them out of danger. Versus just being interested. It's like, maybe it's not real convenient. I'm not going to go, save them from a burning building or being hit by a car. I think that's not going to happen. You are absolutely 100% committed. And that's the way that we have to think about our goals, right? Keith Cunningham, in his book, is one of my favorite books this year, The Road Less Stupid. Like, I'm camping out here. It is one of the best business books I've ever read. The chapters are sometimes a page or a couple pages, and it gives you questions to ask yourself. He talks about, he's like, look, goals have become more like wishes in our current day vernacular, right? So, it's like goals are synonymous with something we'd like to do, but we're not really committed to it. Versus saying, I've got a commitment, and I would challenge you guys to change your language around this as well. Like, hey, I've got a commitment to make this much money this week, because when I do that, it's going to do this, this, and this for my family and my life and my community. That's my commitment, not just my goal. That's my commitment. Right. And I'm going to read a little bit of the MREA for you at the end of MREA page 293, something that Gary says. Before I do that, just a few folks that have arrived. Appreciate you guys signing on. If at all possible, if you don't have your camera on already, please turn it on. I would love to see who we're interacting with. And I intend this to be very interactive. And so if you ever have a question or a comment or anything like that, please, you're welcome to interrupt me and say, hey, Chris, I got a question, whatever it is. You can put it in the chat box. That's fine. But I do want this to be interactive. I want you guys to get the most out of this possible. So here's what Gary says on page 293 of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. He says, goals are an endpoint. They're a finish line. And what do we do when we cross that finish line? We stop. We express our relief at having made it. And the thing you must be careful of about goal setting is to avoid letting your goals become ceilings to your future achievements. Low or even moderate goals are limiting. At best, we're going to stop for a while when we hit them or get close. We realize that we still have gas in the tank, and then we go about setting new goals to motivate us to keep moving and growing. But we lose time at that point. We kind of stop for that rest. I don't know if you guys have experienced that, but I certainly have. Or at least when I get comfortable. Maybe I haven't hit my goal, but I got comfortable. He says a much better path is to set goals that place the finish line far, far away, and then allow ourselves to pause, catch our breath, or celebrate the progress along the path. But keep big goals keep our feet moving and lead us closer to our highest possible potential. Right? So setting big goals is really, really important. And it helps keep our eyes on the prize. And I love what Gary Keller says about the biggest attainment that we can have in life is to be the very best version of ourselves possible. And, if we set mediocre goals that we just think, oh, well, I want to hit that and that'll be good enough, right? That limits things. And I don't know about you guys, like, put all politics aside, we have a leadership vacuum in our country currently. We need leaderships. We need leadership and leaders, period. And so, you guys are those leaders. You can be those leaders. And so I'm going to call you guys out and say, look, set your goals high, because when you make a lot of money, that benefits not just you, but the whole community. And that's, my goal in life is to create enough income that I'm able to deeply impact the world around me. Who here, by a show of hands, has ever sat in a class by Gene Rivers? Has anybody seen Gene Rivers? All right, a few of us. I love the way he says, he's from Florida. He has a little bit of an accent. He's like, you got to make a lot of money. Got to make a lot of money. Yeah, he says it just like that with a high pitch. And it's like, it's true, because he's been broke, I think around age 50. He was wiped out. and he's recreated his life in the last 20 years. And now I think last year he earned $2.5 million from 10 different income sources. So it's really important to set some goals high. All right. So I'm going to share that link for those of you that came in a few minutes ago. So the link I'm sharing, I'm actually going to share my screen. I'm going to ask you to make a copy of it because you will not be able to adjust it yourself. If you make a copy of it, I'm going to teach you how to use this in just a few minutes. So I'm going to erase a few things. Anything, there is instructions in the first tab called instructions. It's pretty simple. So the first step that you want to do is input your average sales price. All right. So like we can erase that, and then you're going to put whatever you want in there for your average sales price. So let's pretend your average sales price is $250,000. Number two is your commission. You're going to input your average commission. I know on our team, we track all these things, and we've been at 2.8% for a long time. That's about the average commission that we earn.
I have this as well. Do you still want me? I have this. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I wanted to let you know
That's all right.
that I'm on my productivity for where I'm at my KW. They set this for me, so I have the
Perfect.
so I can go in and set my tabs, my goals.
Yep. Yeah, I'm sharing this because sometimes if people miss the meeting last month with Chris Stevens to set your goals, or they don't have a tool to do this, I wanted to share a tool to easily do this so that you guys could see, hey, I want to make this much money. And a lot of times that doesn't take into account your tax rate and a few other things. So I want to continue and show you guys how this takes that into account. So number three is, this is probably the most important number in all of this, okay? Because this is how much money do you want to put in your pocket at the end of the day. This is not how much money. A lot of people, I want to make $100,000, and they plan to make $100,000, but what they don't account for is taxes and business expenses. Excuse me. So what you want to do is say, okay, what do I want to make this year? Is it 50,000? Is it 70,000? Is it 100,000? Whatever that is, and this is set for a 12-month period. Okay. Next is your tax rate. That's something only you can put in there. I can't tell you what that is. I'm just going to throw 30% in there. You guys could choose to be something different if you're something different. That's up to you. All right. Once you throw that in, you want to understand and know what your cap rate is. If you're a solo agent, your biggest part of your cost of sales, which is what COS stands for, is cost of sales, right? Cost of sale. Whatever your cap plus royalty is, I know in our market center it's 24,000. What is it in your market center? Do you guys have something different? Does anybody know what the cap is in your market center?
It's the same for
Okay.
my market center. For
Great,
me,
24,000.
Events and Reinvent is from the same market center.
Perfect. Okay, perfect. So that's what you're going to put in there. And then OPEX stands for operating expenses. Okay, so this is what percentage do you want of your income to go towards your business? How much of your gross commission do you want to have go towards that? And on the first page, I have a little bit of advice. If you're a solo agent, we recommend that at least 10% of your gross commission income go towards covering marketing to your database, right? So that's what you might want to put in there. I put 15%, right? So I'm actually going to go ahead and change that to 15%. That's up to you, right? You can play around with that. So when I could put 20% in there and it changes things. The model, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent model, is 30%. And the reason I don't put that in there for a solo agent is because you might not have salaries. You might not have a ton of, the two biggest categories for your operating expenses are salaries and lead gen. Lead gen should be about 10% of your GCI, which is why I was like, put 10% in there. And I'm going to put a little extra, because what you'll see later on is that this agent, this example that we're going through, they're planning to hire somebody by middle of next year. Okay, so we want to plan for that. So when you input all of that, that puts your gross commission income, your total, let's say total, not gross, right, is 196, just south of $200,000. Now, the cool thing is that up top here, it assumes a 75% conversion rate from appointments held to agreements taken, and then agreements taken to sold. So at the end of the day, what this tells you is that you need to go on 50 appointments over the course of a year to take 37 agreements to sell 28 homes and to make 196,000 before taxes and expenses. So any questions about this? I'll tell you on the what's over here on the right in just a second. Any questions? Does anybody find this helpful as a refresher? Or is this all just old? All right, I saw a few heads nodding. So this is a tool that you can use and you can play around with, you know, at your leisure. Now, on the left side is, I'm gonna assume, I'm actually gonna, this is important. I didn't update this for the sheets. If you guys copied it already, you could make a new copy. So on the right-hand side is how many conversations do you need to have? That's number 7, right? And so agreements or conversations to take an agreement, that's going to be based on your efficiency. So what you'll see on the right-hand side here is a picture I took of what Maps and Bold has found and discovered as far as efficiency go. And what you see is in the middle, if you're a medium efficiency lead generator, you're going to be at roughly 120 contacts to 1 listing taken. Mm-hmm. If you're highly efficient, which I do see folks doing this, for every 32 contacts you take a listing, whether that's buyer or seller. Okay. And here's the deal is that real estate is business and the language of business is math. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. I was a C- average student in high school with math. I went to art school. Math is not my strong point, yet because of business, I've learned, and I've learned this stuff. And I honestly learned it best by teaching it. Mm-hmm. So I know a lot of real estate agents, when we start going over math like this, their eyes glaze over and they're like, they go cross-eyed. They're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And they have a limiting belief. Oh, I'm not good at numbers. BS. Stop telling yourself that. Mm-hmm. And if you want to be great at your business, then this is simple addition and subtraction, multiplication and division. That's like 3rd, 4th grade level. All y'all can do that. Trust me. It's just a matter of understanding how the formulas work. Mm-hmm. So I went ahead and put 70 in here. Now, if you're at a 70 efficient, if 70 conversations for 1 agreement taken, then over the course of a year, you're going to need to talk to 2,600 people, which is 200 people a month, 50 people a week, or 10 people a day. Now, how many of you guys, when you think of having 2,600 conversations, 2,600 conversations, get a little overwhelmed? Does anybody feel a little overwhelmed by having 2,600 conversations? I know I do. If we're all being honest, I'm a little overwhelmed. However, when you break that down to just, it's just 10 conversations a day, 50 a week, that's not a big deal, right? And so, it's like, all right, great. Now this assumes, again, that for every 70 people you talk to, you're going to be setting an appointment. Now, I have people that are talking to 35 to set one. And for someone like that, they only need to talk to 5 people a day. So that efficiency rate there makes a big difference. So I'm not going to bore you guys with that, but at the end of the day, this breaks down. If we look at it from a 52-week period, this is what it looks like per week: 4 held, 3 taken, 2 under contract, and it's basically 1 of these a week. Just 1 a week to sell 30 homes, 28 to be exact. So what questions or light bulbs went off for you guys in looking at this? Love to hear from a few of you.
Well, for me, this is a refresher. So it's like, okay, it's bringing me back to what I need to do. Because I got away from this, and I got away from my chart, and I got away from all of this. So I don't even know what my conversion rate is because I haven't been making, yesterday was my first day back on the phones making calls. So you're just pretty much giving me my ammo to see that I just need to make 10 conversations per day, and I'm making it harder than I'm making it harder than what it seems.
Yeah, we tend to overcomplicate it. What else? What else, you guys? Thank you for sharing that, Tara. What else?
It breaks it down into bite-sized, reasonable chores that you have to do on a daily basis. It makes it easy to manage.
Yeah, it's manageable, bite-sized pieces. All right, one more person. What else?
How does everybody, does everybody keep track of their conversations? I know that I don't keep track of my conversations. I guess, so running a business before I did this, I kind of turned it into who I am, just not what I do. So I feel like it comes out in just every daily conversation. And it's not like it's something that I push on somebody or anything else, because I feel like I just want to be a resource in the world. And I kind of live that. Hopefully I live that way. And so I don't pay attention to the amount of conversations that I have, and I don't keep track of them. Now I realize all of a sudden, oh, I had this conversation at the grocery store, and now 2 months later, I got a phone call, someone saying, hey, do you remember me? And I'm going, oh, yes, actually I do. Now, do I remember the full conversation? No, I don't, but I remember having the conversation, and I don't keep track of them. Is that something that is intentional that you guys keep track of? How do you do that?
I would love to hear somebody answer that. What are your thoughts? I could certainly answer that, but I'm gonna let you guys talk first.
I've been trying to focus on the track your daily 10-4. So, and it tells you that you spoke to 10 people on, it gives you the month, and it breaks it down into 4 weeks, and it build and manage your database, 10 people, 10 connections, 10 note cards, 10 homes viewed. So I'm trying, well, there's no try in
That's
bold.
right.
My goal is to use this to keep track of my conversations, and I got a lot of notes that I keep. Like I got to keep everything in order. I'm just all over the place, but this is what I'm definitely trying to work on, is keeping. I keep saying try, and if everybody's bold, there's no try in bold, but I can't try.
So what I'll say is this: I cannot tell you what amount of clarity tracking what I refer to your critical numbers are brings to your business. You know, and there's a spreadsheet I'll show you guys in just a second, but there's also a saying, I don't know who came up with this originally, but whatever, what you track you can measure, and what you measure you can improve. So if you don't measure it and track it, how can you improve it? So if conversations, and also Susan Scott, who wrote Fierce Conversations, said that the conversation is the relationship.
I love that book.
Right? And if the conversation is the relationship, and real estate is a relationship business, then one of the most important things you can track and measure is your conversations. Now, here's the thing: is that progress, not perfection, right? So if you miss a few conversations here and there, it's not the end of the world. But do your best to measure that. And if you don't have something, I saw, is it Brittany? Her team keeps a spreadsheet of who the person is, if you set an appointment, the goals, and where they come from exactly. And I know that Command is moving towards allowing you to do this, but I can share this with you guys. I'll see if I can put this in the comment section there. So I created this 5-6 years ago. This is for 2020. So when it turns to 2021, if you want to continue to use this, I'll have to update it. But this is like the annual look. You can look at it like from an annual perspective: contacts, appointments set, gone on, taken, contracts written under, contract closed, even referrals generated. And then what happens is, if you look at, like, we're in August. So every day in August, you input these numbers. Let's say you talk to 10, 2, 6, 10, 20, 20. Oops. So that tallies up here, so you can see things at a month, a glance at a month, but then you can also go to the annual progress tracker, and it shows up here, right? So all of those critical numbers would show up there. So if you don't have something, I will go ahead and share this, put that in the comment section, so that you guys can, again, you'll need to make a copy for yourself, whoops, and copy it. But if you don't have something else, I'm more than happy to share that with you guys. So it's in there. All right, so I want to share a quick 5-minute segment of this video with you guys in regards to breaking goals down and how important it is. This is actually, I'll set this up. This is from a CrossFit coach. I'm into CrossFit, and it has a lot of relevance to do with breaking down goals to a daily, regimen. And so let me share that with you guys real quick, and hopefully I'll be able to get the, let me make sure the audio is here. Do save the system. So can you guys hear that? I probably can't hear you now. Can you guys, hold on. Let me know if you hear it. I'm going to turn it on. Just give me a thumbs up.
Can't hear it.
So yes? Okay. Okay.
I don't hear it, so can you send me the link later and I'll listen to it?
Can everybody else hear it? No? Okay. Sorry, I thought somebody said they could hear it. Just a moment. All right, let me try this. How about now? No? Okay. Well, all right. So I'll summarize what they're saying. I thought that usually that comes through just fine, but okay. Let me go back. So basically what he's saying is, hey, you know, I don't believe in goals anymore. I used to believe in goals. And he said, you know, what really happens is if you set a goal to win an event, or let's say run a certain pace at the Boston Marathon, you can't really control that. What you can control, because you might show up that day in Boston in April and it might be snowing. So you have no control over the weather conditions. You also have no control over whether you sleep really well the night before or not. So what he says is that what you can control is your daily effort. And when it comes to CrossFit and some of the other stuff that he coaches, it's like you can control your nutrition protocol. You can control what your training is. You can control mindset practices. You can control sleep and water and all these other things, right? And that's what you can control on a daily basis. How do you show up today? And what I find is very interesting is that really applies to what we do as real estate agents. What you do today is just a microcosm of what you do for the year. You know, however you show up today is exactly how you're going to end up showing up for the year. So if you only hit your goal at 50% today and then 50% this week, ask yourself, okay, if my goal is to make $100,000 this year, am I okay making 50? You can ask yourself that on a daily daily routine. How did I do today? And if I do that for this year, am I okay with that? Because the truth is if you only do 50% today, you've got to do 150% tomorrow. And that's a big swing in effort, right? So consistency, time on task over time is going to beat, starts and stops every day of the month, right? So just, the point is every day, get what your actions need to be down to every day. And so what I want to do is go into talking about the GPS. And I'm going to share my screen. Let's see. And I want to walk you through an example GPS that I've set up. So while I do that, I'd love to hear from a few of you. What are your biggest questions around a GPS? And you just shout them out. Oops, that's not the one I wanted to share. What are your biggest questions with GPS or the business plan?
Mine would be, how often do you have to check it as the day is progressing?
Okay. How often are you reviewing it? Okay. What else? Who has done a GPS or put together a GPS before? Anyone?
I used to work at another brokerage. I've been at KW for just about over a year now, just a little bit over a year. And I did a different format. It was a small private, brokerage. And so we had just basically like a so many times copied that it was all washed out, handwritten sheet that we wrote every year.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. What I want to hear from one more person. I'm hearing too many crickets. So what else, what other questions or challenges do you have with creating, let's just say, a business plan? Then you can go with a GPS. Like, just what challenges do you have with creating an annual business plan? Even if it's a different industry that you created one for before.
I had a problem creating a business plan at the very beginning. I think it was probably only now that I hit my third year that it turned into a final number. Mine was a transaction first. At the beginning, my business plan was, and even now, I like to keep it as a transaction. Because I always had that belief that, hey, if you're working that, you're gaining the other. So mine was a transaction. Mine was becoming and being who I was in the community, and mine was how many transactions did I really want to have within per month, and then that would equate. And of course, then learning to grow that, and how to make that become even bigger, with the idea of growing the actual price of the transaction, and where do I want to get into when it comes to that. Really finding that niche in the market that you want to be in and what that equates to. So I don't think, for me, it wasn't, I had a problem whenever it's, oh, create a business plan. Okay, I've created business plans before. I had such a hard time doing it in real estate, because I just did not want to make it about, yes, everybody, we're here to make money, but I just didn't want to make it about, oh, looking at that ultimate $100,000. I wanted to break it down into a simpler form and turn it into what I did, knowing that what I did would create that. But that's how I had to do it at first. And I don't know, but in my head, that's how I had to do it at first.
And is it Tavia? Is that how you say your name? Tavia. Okay. Thank you, Tavia. I appreciate you sharing that. So GPS is goal, priorities, strategies, right? So we see here goal, then we have priorities. There's usually 3 priorities and 5 strategies for each priority, right? So it doesn't have to be 3 priorities. I mentioned to some of you that were on the call first thing that I'm a part of the National Social Equity Task Force for Keller Williams, and we actually are ending up with a 1-5-5. So 5 priorities and 5 strategies. Some of them, we don't even have 5 strategies for each one of those priorities. So it really is what is going to be effective to help you get to your goal. And the deal is with this is that, what I caution you guys on is don't overdo it. When you're new at creating something like this and working from a plan like this, the simpler, the better. So don't feel like you must have 5 strategies for each priority. I know honestly, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I sucked at making GPSs for the last 5 years. I was really not good at it. Last year was the first year I buckled down. I'm like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make this measurable. I actually took a couple of classes from Jeff Woods, who runs the One Thing company, and it really, really helped. In fact, before we're done, I'm going to share some links to his webinars that he did last year that really helped me understand how to create a powerful and clear business plan. So again, what is it? It's a goal tool that helps you clarify what actions and priorities you're going to take over the next 12 months to hit an annual goal. So in this case, we've got a goal of selling 30 homes, and that's based on the goal setting sheet I shared with you earlier, right? So in this case, this person, it was 28 in that goal setting, but we're going to bump it up a little bit, make it around 30 homes, right? And even 30 homes. So in this case, this person's goal is 30 homes that are going to net that person $100,000 after taxes and all expenses. One of the big things you want to ask yourself when creating this or a 411 is there a clear finish line with this? Do I know without a shadow of a doubt when I accomplish this that I've accomplished it, right? And in this case, sell 30 homes, netting $100,000 after taxes and expenses is very, very clear, right? So what are the priority that this agent chose to create for their business? The first priority was leads. The next one is seller listings. And the last one they chose was leverage. So those are the 3 priorities that they were going to choose to help them get to their goal of selling 30 homes. So as I take you guys through this, I'm just going to walk you through each one of these. I might not go through every single strategy, but what I would love to do is take a few minutes, walk you through it, and then I would love to hear from you guys. What are you noticing? What are you seeing from this? What ahas are you getting from this run through? And I'm going to beef up the view here a little bit. Let's see if I can do that. Not quite enough for me. 200. There we go. So the 5 strategies that they have, the first priority is to create 1,200 leads by October 31st, 2021. So in order to create 1,200 leads by October 31st, 2021, the 5 strategies that they chose was, the first one is consistent daily lead generation, 100 conversations weekly, 400 per month, 4,800 a year, for 12 leads per week, 50 per month, 600 per year by 10/31 of 2021. All right, so that was their first one. Next, strategy number 2 is to identify their VIP A, B, and Cs from their database by 10/31 of this year. Okay. Number 3, create and implement a 36-touch program that includes speaking to their VIP A and Bs 6 times a year, which would be 8 contacts a day, 40 per week, 160 per month, 1920 total. So this is part of strategy 1, but it's a subset of that, right? It's an addition. It's kind of supporting that, right? Number 4 is to run 46 Facebook ads through command, 2 a week, 8 a month, with a total budget of $1,500 to create 500 leads before March 15th of 2021. And then the last one was to hold 4 open houses per month, 48 total over the year, to create 2 leads per open house, or a total of 96 leads/nurtures. So what are you guys noticing about what we just went over? What observations do you guys have?
I like the deadlines.
Deadlines. Yeah. Which is not something that I had typically incorporated into my GPSs or business plans, previous to 2019. So deadlines, absolutely. What else?
It's breaking it down, like really, really micromanaging exactly what activity that you're expecting from each goal.
Yeah. So remember when we talked about goals versus daily activity? With just about each one of these strategies, do you know on a daily, weekly, monthly basis whether there's what the finish line is daily, weekly, monthly? With each one of these, that's pretty clear, maybe with the exception of number 2, because there's a deadline of identifying those categories in their database by the end of October of this year. Okay. So, and that brings up another point I'm just curious about. What do you guys notice about the dates, the deadlines on some of these? What might you have put as a deadline for some of these? Would it be different than the end of October of next year?
I might have put until the end of this year or something of that caliber. I may have not gone out that far.
Well, specifically, what do you guys think about this and having a deadline? I mean, why wouldn't this deadline be 12/31 of 2021? I mean, this is for the year. This is for 2021, right? That's kind of what I'm, this is for a full year, and I'm using this next year coming up as an example of this. But and this is a very important point. I really would love for you guys to grab onto. So why is this the end of October and not the end of December?
Probably because at that point you'll be closing the deal at the end of December. If you communicate at that point, it takes that long for it to come to fruition.
Yeah, Vince, that's exactly right, man. So in other words, when you lead generate today, you're lead generating for business, 30 to 120 days from now, right? So our production year with, I'll say, hold on a second. something came up in the chat. Tavia, no problem. So I'm sorry. So structure is what Brittany had said. So let me come back to that real quick, a structure. I want to hear more about that. So be prepared to talk to me about that, Brittany. So our lead time on our lead activities, which is conversations or lead generation, going on appointments and taking listings, is roughly 90 to 120 days. So our calendar year roughly runs from October 1st through roughly October 31st, depending on where you want to look at. It's October to October, right? It's not January to January, right? Because then, if you run your business that way, and this is what I saw with my team, we're going to close roughly 1.5 million in GCI for about 50 million in volume this year. That's what we're on pace to do. And what I noticed is that when we started our year on January 1st, we were always a quarter behind in hitting annual goals. And so you really have to start at the beginning of the fourth quarter with your lead generation activities in order to hit your goals for the next year, right? There's a lag time with that. And so that's why by the end of October, right? So if you take a listing at the end of October, you could still reasonably get it under contract and sold, at least in the current market. Now, who knows next year, but you could reasonably get it closed, under contract and closed by then. So Brittany, you had said structure. Tell me more about that. What do you notice about the structure?
So it's not just, the amount of leads or what you want to make, or, how you're incorporating everything that you need to get to by that date. It's just, what you need to be doing daily, what you need to be doing on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis. So I think that it's helpful just knowing how to get to those places, because since I started in this business, I've heard a lot of people say, if it's not on your calendar, it's not going to happen. So
right.
It's, something that you have to put in your calendar, that you have that time allotted to make those things happen on top of an already busy schedule. So I think that's really helpful.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Really
Yep.
appreciate it. Cool. Any other observations from this first section? All right. Next one is priority 2 is listings, specifically seller, right? And what do you guys notice about leads, listings, leverage? Where have you heard that before?
Millionaire real estate model.
Right. Now, listen, please don't go to your team leader or Nathan or anybody else and say, hey, Chris told us to make our GPS leads, listings, leverage. That's not what I'm saying. Just, this is an example, right? Some people put buyers, sellers, and systems. Others, put other leading indicators, right, as their priorities. In this example, I just went with leads, listings, leverage. All right. So number 2 is they decided to focus on listings. Buyers aren't even on here. Why would buyers not even, like, what's so important about listings? Why would we not focus on, leverage, right? If you control listings, you control the buyers in a lot of cases, as long as your systems are up to date. So priority number 2 is take 40 seller listings by the end of October. There's that date again, right? Strategies, set 2 seller appointments per week, 8 per month, 96 total for the year. Create a farm domination plan for I just put neighborhood. So like if there's a neighborhood that you want to geographically farm, with a budget of $10,000. Now I didn't put a date in there, but there should be a date in there, right? And in this case, I would say by the end of October of this year, because this GPS is going to run October 1st through the end of September next year. All right. Door knock 25 plus homes around every open house, 100 per month, 1,200 doors per year. Run 23 seller ads through command. And that's not in addition to the one above, that's kind of a subset of that, right? So half the ads are going to be seller ads, half the ads are going to be buyer focused. All right. And then the last one is post weekly houses wanted posts on Facebook. So that's, it's not terribly important, what that is. And then number 3 is leverage. So they're going to hire a MAPS coach by the end of October. They're going to hire a bookkeeper by the end of October. They're going to take career visioning twice next year. They're going to save for 3 months of a lead admin salary by the end of May this coming year. And they're going to hire their first lead admin by the end of June. That's why they're putting aside, or they're doing 15%, not just 10, for their cost of sales. Okay. Any observations or questions about this example for you. I think, Michael, you had asked me to share this with you. This was shared. I can share this example with you guys. I'll go ahead and make sure I do that when we're done. Give me a second. What other questions do you guys have or observations? Nothing? Okay, so here's some best practices, all right? I'm gonna take that off the screen while I talk about this. So a couple best practices when it comes to a GPS. All right, you wanna make sure that there's specific action-oriented goals that are measurable, right? On pretty much each one of those, there was a deadline. You knew exactly what to do, not just, it wasn't just sell 30 homes, right? Well, how do I get sell 30 homes? What are the daily activities that are gonna get you to selling those homes? It was lead generation, it was open houses, things like that, right? Be very specific. The other thing is you want to keep your GPS and your 411 to a minimum of activities. Guys, I cannot tell you how many years I followed the formula and did a 1-3-5, right? 1 goal, 3 priorities, 5 strategies. And we tried to do that's 15 strategies. That's a lot to track. There's a lot to track. And so we actually just started 2 years ago, we started doing a 1-3-3, where there were no more than three strategies. And actually what we started doing this year, which you'll see in my template for 411 in just a few minutes, I really believe in breaking down your GPS into quarterly goals, because it just kind of chunks it down at one level further. And you actually, what I got in the habit of is creating quarterly GPSs based on an annual GPS. That way it's like, okay, this month, and it just makes it more bite size, right? If you try to fit a whole Snickers bar into your mouth, you're gonna look pretty silly and you're probably gonna choke on it, versus those fun size ones, it's a little easier, right? So the other thing is with the GPS, you wanna make sure that what you track, again, I said this earlier, what you track, you can measure, what you measure, you can improve. So if you don't have if you're not tracking or measuring these activities, there's no way you're going to know whether you're on the right path or not. Right? And I know Vince can talk about this or speak to this as far as, lifting weights and exercise and all that stuff. It's like, look, if I want to have a 500-pound deadlift, I'm not going to go out tomorrow and try to lift 500 pounds. I'll injure myself, guaranteed. Right? But if I work up to it over a period of 3 to 6 months, depending on what my baseline is, I got to figure out my baseline. What can I do right now? After I stretch and warm up and do some stuff, maybe I could do 300. So, okay, well, if I want to add 200, that might take a year safely, right? Or more. And it's like, okay, well, I've got to work up to that. And so, if you're not measuring, if you're not tracking your progress and what you're doing, there's no way you can improve it and figure out, okay, what's my action plan? All right. So any other questions about the GPS before we jump into the 411?
So when you say break it down into quarterly goals, we'll just start. So for instance, if we start now, we all start from, September, October, November, if we wanted to start now, or should we start in October to make it?
I would start with October.
Okay.
Because the truth is that there really is no fourth quarter in real estate. Right. There's only practice for the first quarter. Okay. Right. And what you do in the fourth quarter, October, November, December, is going to line up your January, February, March.
Okay.
Right. And so, when you look at it that way, it's like, yeah, start October. And that's what bugs me when, at least, in our region, because you guys are in the same region as me, I love John Clady and Michelle. They know that I love them. And we have Gene Rivers come up and do business planning in like October, November. And I'm like, holy crap, that's too late. We need to be business planning now. We have September is business planning month for all of my coaching clients that I coach across the country. And we're starting to have some conversations now about what do you want to do in 2021.
Good.
So yeah, absolutely do those now. Go ahead.
On this call, this is good.
I found a different way at this moment to set myself up for the new year, for a really strong new year. So I learned that, and with investors, they always have, of course, they have a plan. They have a plan from this year to next year. They, of course, don't want to close certain homes until the next year, and that kind of stuff. So I've gained a few investors with the idea that we're ready to sell something as of the new year. So like right now, I already have one that is set to close after January 1st. We'll have it actually under contract by the end of next week. I have a buyer for them already. This buyer is, as long as this seller has a clear intent to purchase and already a pre-qualification, I've got a buyer ready, and we have a set to close here come after January 1st. And I've learned if I can keep collecting investors like that, with that mentality, I can set up a very strong start of the new year. And it's something that they're looking at doing now because they're preparing for the new year as well.
Yeah, Tavia, you hit on a very, very important point, which is a pipeline, right? And I can't tell you how important having a pipeline is and paying attention to your pipeline. And here's the secret, is that when I chose how many leads we needed in that GPS, the 1,200 leads, that wasn't just plucked out of the air. There is a formula that we've discovered in MAPS over the last 15 years of coaching agents, that for every 40 leads and nurtures you have, and lead would be defined as, it's not just somebody who signs up for your website and you never hear from. A lead is somebody that you've had a two-way conversation with, and you know they're going to do something within the next, within the calendar year that you have your goal set for, right? So it's actually 40 leads to one closing. That's on average with what we see. And so I just took 30 times 40, and that's 1,200. That's where I came up with that number. And what I have been guilty of in the past with my team, and when I was in production, which I'm not anymore, I was really guilty of being a scavenger. And here's what I mean by that, is that I would come into the office, I'd pick up the phone, and I'd be like, man, I need to hit my goals today, and I'm behind, and I need to find 2 appointments, and I'm just going to call, cold call. I'm going to call my database. I'm going to go out. I'm going to open my door. I'm going to look outside and see what's laying out in front of me, whether there's those, wineberries or wild blackberries or roadkill, God forbid, or whatever's in front of me. I'm going to pick up, and I'm going to use that to eat today. And I'm going to go inside and be like, all right, I did my job for today. As opposed to being a farmer and planting several fields and tending those fields, like, okay, this month I'm planting seeds in this one. Next month, I'm going to plant seeds and water this one. I'm going to plant seeds in the third one, water and harvest this one, right? And so if you look at, you have 12 fields that you got to take care of, January through December, right? And that's exactly what you're doing, Tara, or Tavia, sorry, is that you were planting seeds for January. And that's what, I recommend everybody do, is you keep track of those seeds. And when you lead generate, yes, you have to find, if you're behind in your goals, you've got to find urgent business, right? 30 days from now, within the next 30 days business. I should say, you're also looking for the next 3 to 6 months worth of business, and you're planting seeds. And if you happen to find one for 12 months from now, that's totally fine. That's cool. Just put it in a system so that you're following up with them every single month, right? Great point. Other observations about the GPS, or before we move on to the 411? Nothing? You sure? Okay. Here's what we're going to do. I know that Nathan sent out a template for you guys, but I'm going to share. This is a template that I use to coach my clients, and I just felt a little more comfortable using this. The other reason I'm using this is because there are only 2 categories. Right on the one that Nathan sent out, there's nothing wrong or bad about this. There were 4 categories. It was like business. Maybe the old one was like your business, your job, financial, and personal. And it's my experience that to simplify this down into just 2 categories of professional and personal, it makes it a little easier. And here's, if you guys don't listen to the One Thing podcast with Jeff Woods, I'd highly recommend it. They talk a lot about these tools there. And it's not just real estate agents. They actually very seldom talk to real estate agents in that podcast. And it's really cool to see this applied to general business, business in general. And, one of the things that he said is that having those 4 categories was just overwhelming. And he's like, I just simplifying it down, is made it a lot easier to accomplish. And here's the other thing. One of the mistakes I see people make with these tools is that they think this is a catch-all to get everything in the world done. And that's not true. This is your most important lead dominoes must accomplish goals for the year, right? These are the goals that if you don't accomplish them, you're in trouble. All right. We talked about commitment versus interest, right? It's funny, if you ever go to like a wedding ceremony or what have you, how bad would it be? I'm just going to pick on the guys because it's easier to do this. If the woman gave her vows, you're like, I commit to you till death do us part, blah, 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 blah. And then the guy's like, yeah, I think I'm like 85% committed to being true to you. I think I can't promise 100%. I'm pretty sure I could do 85%. That day would not end well. You would not be going to a reception afterwards. Okay. And that's the thing with these things. That's why I started with talking about commitment, because these are the things you have to be 100% committed to, right? And who can finish this for me? Logic makes you think. Emotions make you, who knows how to finish that? Logic makes you think. Emotions make you act. Very good, Vince. Very good. Emotions make you act. And so when it comes to these goals, we've got to be emotionally connected to these in a very real way. Otherwise, it's going to be hard when we hit a roadblock or a wall or an obstacle. It's going to be very difficult to push through. So, all right, here's the 411. The 411 should stand for, it's actually 114. It's 1 year, 1 month, 4 weeks. And what I'm going to encourage you guys to look for in this, or to think about, is I have it set up so that it starts with quarterly, right? I took the daily lead generation goal and broke it down into quarterly goals. So this would be December or October through December, right? And so I just gave a few examples. So I'm going to take you through this, and if you want to keep it at an annual, that's fine. Just replace these with the annual ones. These are already on the annual ones are already on your GPS. So I'm like, why would we recreate that? The GPS is there. And what I would recommend you do is you revisit your GPS once a month when you reset your 411 for the next month. All right. I'll tell you more about that in a second. Right. So let's just go through what's here. Right. So daily lead generation, 1,200 conversations, discovering 150 leads by the end of December. Right. So the total conversations was 4,800. Right. So this takes 1/4 of that and puts it in the first quarter. All right. Next one has to do with your seller leads. How many seller listing appointments? How many do you need to hold? And it was 24, and you take 12, which is a 50% conversion rate. Right? You should be above 50%. If you're only taking 50%, there's a problem. But in this case, like if I were coaching this person, there's a reason why we would have put 12 or 24 and 12. Right? 24 is actually more than they need. And what matters more is actually taking 12 seller listings. All right. And you would finish the rest of these. My recommendation is having no more than 5 goals at the top here. Because if you get more than 5, again, you're getting into a territory where everything matters equally. It becomes very difficult to manage and to keep track of. So keep it to 5 or 4 if you can. All right. So now we've got October. We go down to the next section, and it's for the month. And we break down this. Number 1 corresponds with number 1 for the month. So daily lead generation, I want to have 40 conversations and find 50 leads. Up here, we go to number 2, corresponds with number 2 for the month, 8 seller appointments, 4 seller listings taken. And then based on the GPS, I also, there's a couple deadlines that you need to nail down by the end of October. One of which was everybody needs to be categorized in your METS database as an A, B, or C person. And the definition for that's something you and I, if somebody has a question about this system, we can talk offline about this, but it's basically an A person in your database refers or sends you 2 pieces of business a year. Maybe they're one of them and they refer somebody to you, or they do a deal and refer somebody to you. A B is somebody that does 1 deal a year or refers 1 deal a year to you. C is somebody who would refer a business to you if you just fostered that relationship a little bit more. And you're going to treat your A's and B's a little differently. Number 4 is create a 36 touch plan and a farm plan, right? These 3 things were due by the end of October. And so I just lumped the 36 touch and farm there as well. And then above that was the A, B, and C. And then what you'll notice at the bottom, this is another big mistake people make when filling out the 411. They think that there are 4 weeks at the bottom because they need to fill all 4 weeks in. And that's not true. If you were to look at the template that the One Thing company gives you, there's actually only 1 week at the bottom, right? But I like to kind of track this a little bit more than just having 1 week at the bottom. And so in this case, we've got the first week of October, second week, third week, fourth week, right? And you leave these blank, and I'll show you why, right? So our 400 conversations for the month breaks down to 100 per week, or 12 leads per week. So let's say at the end of the week, let's say your 411 review day is Saturday. So on Saturday, you get this out. You're looking at this every day, right? Don't make any mistake about it. You're looking at this every day. But on Saturday, you get this out and you say, you know what? I just had an emergency, and this happened, life happened, and I had 81 conversations, and I found 10 leads. So now this next week, guess what? You got to carry those 19 missed conversations over so that you're still on pace to hit your goal. So you're going to need 119 conversations, and you're going to need 14 leads. The mistake that most people make is they just copy and paste this across the board. And that is not what you want to do, because if you miss or you fall short one week, oh, I only need to do 100 more the next week, you're going to end up missing your monthly goal, and you're going to be behind. Don't do that. Review it, right? And so let's say you got 80 contacts sorted, right? Well, I wouldn't recommend doing 70 the next week. I would do 75, and just know that, man, if you can get these done ahead of time, let's say you get 80 done each week, and you only need to do like 60 the last week, that's awesome, right? So you want to, every week you're going to review this and say, how did I do? Based on how I did, is there a gap, and how do I close that gap the next week?
Can I ask something?
What?
When you say
Yes,
sorted,
please.
when you say sorted, are we going in our database and we're basically trying to find who's our A, B, and C people?
Well,
and
so understand, sorry to interrupt you, understand this is an example. All right, this is not what you should be doing. I'm not telling you this is what you should do, but this is for this agent, what they determined, that's what they needed to do. So in this example, it was they went through 75 database contacts, METs, right? People who know them, like them, and trust them, and categorize them as an A, B, or a C. That's the example, right? Okay.
That's what I would.
What other?
Asking. Okay.
Okay. What other questions do you guys have about this?
Is that something that you do, or?
Yes, when I'm being good, there are times where I don't stay on top of this. I'll be honest. I struggle sometimes with the habit of keeping up with my 411. It's a habit, right?
Yeah.
And there's a quote that I should get tattooed on myself somewhere that says it's noted in the book, The One Thing, and it's by a guy named F.M. Alexander. And what he said is that people don't determine their futures, they determine their habits. And their habits determine their futures, right? So if you're a person that you're like, I never miss a day in the gym, guess what? Well, you can't, and I'm sure Vince would be able to, attest to this, that you can't out exercise a bad diet usually. But if you go to the gym every day, chances are you're going to make decent nutritional, choices. And if you're the type of person who doesn't miss that, right, you're going to end up being a fairly fit and strong person, depending on what you train for, right? So same thing with lead generation. If you're the person, I do not miss making my 10 conversations, my 20 conversations a day, 5 days a week, right? If that's who you are, then, and that's a habit, that will determine your future. Versus I am somebody who is interested in making my 20 conversations a day. I'm interested in earning my income, right?
Right. Now, one other question that I have that I always get confused with, or I get stuck with, like when I'm talking to someone and we're having a two-way conversation. I always like, do I count, certain conversations? Do I count that as a contact? Do I count that as, speaking?
Great question.
And sometimes it might be, hi, how are you? I'm calling from Williams, and then boom, or they'll say, I'm not interested. Do I count that as a contact?
So I really appreciate you asking that question, because it used to be, unless you vomited real estate over somebody, it didn't count as a contact, right? It had to be face-to-face or over the phone. That's changed in the last 12 months, especially with Corona and COVID hitting. The focus should be the relationship. Now, if every time you talk to somebody, you ask them, hey, who do you know who needs to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? How long are they going to be a friend of yours? Probably not too long, right? So if they're in your database, the rule is that if you're asking them, if business comes up at some point in, like if you intend to have at least 4 conversations with a person in your Mets database, real estate should come up every time, but maybe you're only asking them for a referral twice a year. It shouldn't, the conversation is the relationship, remember? And if the only conversation you're having with them is all about you and what you need, that's not a good relationship, right? Which is one of the gifts I feel of what's happened recently is that, what Gary and Maps and the trainers at Keller Williams were saying immediately once quarantine happened is you need to be talking to your database like probably twice a month and saying, how are you doing? How's work? How's the family? How are you guys holding up? Is there anything I can do? Right? And deepening that relationship. Because when you deepen that relationship and they have a great experience with you and they know how much you care, then results are going to happen, right? Relationship, experience, results. So my suggestion with conversations is if it's with your database, there are easy ways to bring up real estate if they don't ask you. However, you just follow the Ford method: family, occupation, recreations, dreams, right? So if you ask them, how's your family? And you ask them, hey, how's work going? How is this whole, if you haven't talked to them in a few months, how's staying at home impacted your ability to work, right? And then you kind of shut up and listen to them. If you ask them about their work, how likely are they to ask you about your work? Very likely. Wow, how's real estate? Tell me about real estate. And there are very easy ways to go into business without seeming slimy, right? One of which would be, if they ask you how's real estate, holy crap, the market is like stupid ridiculous. If you have to sell your home, we're down to like less than a month of inventory. And what that means, usually it's like 5 to 6 months of inventory. So we actually have a housing crisis right now because we need homes to sell. So I'm just wondering, Tara, who do you know that might want to take advantage of this market? I mean, if I had a home that sold in like 24 hours with 40 offers and sold for $20,000 over asking price, I think it's a crazy opportunity. Who should I be talking? Who do you know I should be talking to about that? Right? So it's not a skeevy or like a throwing up kind of thing. It's just a natural. If it comes up naturally. Now, if they don't bring it up, that's okay. Right. Just make a note in command next time you talk to them. Maybe use a few techniques to bring it up. Which if they don't bring it up and you need to bring it up, I'd say, hey, because I'm a real estate expert, what questions do you have about the real estate market right now? Right. See what questions they have.
Cold calling. Let's go back to this.
Cold calling is different.
We're cold
right.
calling.
Cold calling is different. So if you're cold calling, or it's not somebody that knows you, likes you, or trusts you, if they pick up the phone and you say, hi, this is Tara with Keller Williams Real Estate, and they hang up, that counts as a contact, believe it or not.
Okay.
And I'm going to refer to Anna Kruger, who coaches. She's the head ISA coach for MAPS. Okay. And that's exactly what she tells her ISA people. That is a contact.
Okay.
Now your database is different, right? But understand, if you're cold calling people, for every 100 people that you cold call, you might find one piece of business. That is the last source of contacts that you as a solo agent should be going after.
Right.
Okay. Great question. What other questions do you guys have about the 411? All right. So as you're thinking of more questions, I would love to hear more.
I think I might have one. So I tend to be maybe overthinking, but I tend to be very methodical about where I want to put my business and where I want to be and what I want to get to. But obviously, hopefully, that's that's very helpful. So just like when I said about looking for like the investor to start out for the new year, do you have? So I really don't. Again, I don't track it. It's intentional, but it's not. I don't track it. Do you have any other suggestions in the line of using that intention in this plan?
What I hear you asking about is, how do I develop a habit? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So, here's what I know about habits is that, again, going back to exercise, right? If I go and try to deadlift more than I'm capable of, I'm going to hurt myself, and I'm not going to go back to the gym for a long time, if ever.
Mhm.
And it's the same thing with understanding a habit with lead generation, right? If your desire is to start tracking your critical numbers, and you start trying to track every single number there is that's out there, chances are you're lifting too much, right? You've got to focus in on what. I love what Gary, I've heard him say this as well recently, one of his recent masterminds. He's like, make whatever it is you want to create and win at so small that it's inevitable that you win at it, right? So if your desire is to track your business, therefore you're measuring it, therefore you can improve it, then I would start with something like, hey, I'm going to take 60 seconds a day and just say, okay, how many people do I think I talked to? How many did I set any appointments? Did I go on any appointments? Did I take any listings? Did I get any under contract? It literally will take you 60, you can do that in 60 seconds or less every day, right? That's a habit that you could get into. And the goal is not perfection, right? The goal is progress. So if you just start with 60 seconds a day, you have a reminder on your phone, right? Let's say that that's at 7 o'clock for you, whatever time of the day is good for you to do that. Pick a good time and you consistently stick with it and say, okay, let me ask you guys, how many days on average does Gary and Jay Papazan, who wrote The One Thing, tell us it takes to develop a habit? Anybody know how many days? Anybody want to take a guess?
I don't know if it's from them, but I heard 40.
30, 40,
30.
what else? They say 66.
66.
Now it depends.
Right,
Yeah. They say it takes 66. Now, some habits, it might take a lot less than that. Some habits, it might take more than that, right? But that's why they have the 66-day challenge. So what I would suggest, Tavia, that you do is say, okay, great. I'm going to set a habit of who cannot literally take 60 seconds out of their schedule just to guess how many conversations they had. And by the way, your phone can track, like, hey, who did I talk to today? If you use this, you can just simply go back through and say, all right, who did I talk to today? This is a good way of kind of dumbing it down to a degree to make it foolproof, right? How many did I talk to today? You can go into your text. By the way, it's not just phone conversations or face-to-face. It could be text messages or Facebook messages as well, right? That's legal, right? So how many did I talk to? Did I set any appointments? Did I go on any appointments? Did I put any under contract? Did I close any? Right? If you just take 60 seconds to do that over 66 days, you will have established a habit. And then you can take the next step and start saying, okay, great. Now I'm going to take that to the next level, which might be using a spreadsheet like I shared with you. Or maybe you start out doing that, right? Does that make sense? Does that help?
It does. And I realized as you were talking, I do part of it, but then I just don't keep track of it to look back at now. Because I even if I have, and it's just me because I'm that physical person and I have to write. So I have my online calendar and I have, of course, everything else I'm taking care of. But then the night before, I go through all of that and I write for myself things that I literally just, like, before I go to bed, I write down everything, like every person that I have something going on with, like what I needed to take care of that day. And then throughout the day, though, I'm then not looking back and going, I had those conversations and then adding the other I talked to this person, or I know I did that, or I know then, but I don't actually then take that and put it somewhere that I can look back at it.
Yeah. So I want to share something with you guys, and I'm, this is not something I share with the public very often, so you guys have an inside look on this. So I'm going to share two things with you real quick and just kind of see if I can teach you something with this. This is the scoreboard I use for my business, and then it is a critical number sheet of one of the people in my organization, one of my top salespersons. Okay, so this is the sheet for our business, and this is as of this morning. This gets updated daily. All right, so month to date, our goal is to hold 42 appointments. We're at 18. Our goal is to take 32 agreements. We're at 13, which is 43% in both of those categories. How far through the month percentage-wise are we? Does anybody want to take a guess? We're 58% of the way through the month. The way I know that is I literally whipped out my calculator. I took 18, because today's the 18th, divided it into 31, and it tells me I'm 58%. We're behind. I know for a fact that we're behind, in our goal, right? However, based on our pace currently, we have 52 I got to breathe. 52 under contract, which is a lot for us. I'm going to be honest. Pending, and we're on pace to do 171, which is actually above our goal for the year. Our goal has been 160. I know it says 180 there, but it's actually adjusted a few times through COVID. So we're on pace for 171. And so we're behind pace in here. Now, let me show this to you. Ignore the picture. It's a joke. It's not actually the person on my team. So here's what I know for him. At the bottom here, his conversion ratios, contacts to appointments set. For every 28 people he talks to, he sets an appointment. For every 61 contacts, he takes a listing. For every 1.23 appointments he goes on, or he sets, he holds, right? I'm not as interested in these as much as these, right? Those are really, really important, because now if he needs to adjust his goal, if he's behind, right? For the month, he's held 9, which is 50%. And I already told you we're 58% of the way through the month. He's a little bit behind. And so if he wants to just simply, up his conversations, he knows exactly how many conversations he needs to have between now and the end of the month, right? He's at 276. His goal is 350, and he's 59% of his goal there, yet he's only 50% of the way to listings taken. He is 70% of the way to appointments set. So there's probably some appointments he's set and hasn't gone on yet. So, but my point is like, he knows based on these numbers exactly how many conversations he needs to have in order to hit the goals that he wants to have. Right. So Tavia, so this is why you would want to track, so that at any given point, where your gaps are, and you can make adjustments on the fly. Right. Does that help you guys?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's simply just a matter for him. You just need a system. And the system I shared with you guys will tell you those things, maybe not in that format, but it will tell you those things. And for anybody that wants to use that, I'd be happy to send that to you along with a quick training video that'll tell you how to use that. So, so with that said, we've got about 30 minutes. I want to wrap up 411 and then move into any other questions or practical questions that you guys have. Couple things in order to drive the 411 home. Couple things you need to do. The rhythm. There's a daily and weekly and monthly rhythm to the 411 and GPS. The daily rhythm is you're looking at your 411, you're pulling it out. All you have to do is look at it for the week. So let me see if I can find one of mine. I just switched journals. So it was in it, but all right, I left it at home. So of course it's at home. I would fold it into 3. So there was the year in one fold, month in another, and the week at the bottom. And I'd simply look at the week. And every morning I'd say, okay, great. Based on the weekly goals that I have, what do I need to do today such that by doing it, I would hit my goal for the week? And then I write down my top 3 most important things to do every morning and say, you know what? These are my must do's. Before I go to bed, I have to accomplish these things, or I'm not showing up in a way that's going to hit my goals for the week, the month, and the year. So I look at that every day. And then based on what I accomplished yesterday, I redo the goals for the day. Now, it's also really important. Somebody already said, I think it was Vince, if it's not on your schedule, it doesn't exist. So the second thing you need to do is make sure that those most important things have room on your schedule, that you've got a time block that's translated over to your Google Calendar or iCalendar or whatever you use. If you write it down, use a paper calendar, that it's translated over to that and it lives on your calendar, right? That way throughout the day, you don't even need to look at your must-do list. You just look at your calendar and say, all right, well, did I get this done? And if you didn't get it done, if you erase, you must replace. It's got to live somewhere else. Those things have to get done. So that's the daily routine, right? That's the daily habit that you need to get into to make the 411 work for you. Now, weekly, at the end of your week, whether that's Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, you choose, you review your 411 for the week. Like I showed you guys, if it's 100 conversations you need to have and you had 80, all right, I was 20 short, so I've got to move 20 on to this week. I've got to have 120 conversations. So you write in what you need to get done this week in order to accomplish your monthly goals, and then you make sure that that gets scheduled, that it's in your schedule, right? So that's the weekly. So daily, you're looking at it, what are my must-dos today? Weekly, you're looking at it, making sure it translates to your calendar, and then every month, you're resetting your GPS and I'm sorry, your 411 by looking at your GPS and saying, okay, did I hit everything I needed to hit based on my GPS? Am I getting everything done that I need to get done? And what do I need to put on my monthly goals? So for 411. So if you get through October, let's say you didn't categorize, like the example I gave you was they wanted to categorize all their METS database into A, B, or C. Let's say they only got halfway through it. Say, all right, well, I intend to get the rest of that done by the 15th of this month. I'm going to buckle down. I'm going to get it done. Right. So you put that in there. And then, you know, let's say you were, you know, out of 400 conversations, you only had 350. Okay. Well, this month, instead of 400, I'm going to get 115 done every day or every week. And that equates to, like, let's call it 450. Right. So I'm going to make up for that shortfall. So you keep up with that. Right. And if you start to see a pattern of being short in those daily activities, like conversations, that snowballs really, really quick if you're not on top of it. All right. So that's how the GPS comes into this. And if you have a quarterly GPS that you're looking at every month, then at the end of the quarter, you're going to reset and do a new GPS for the next quarter based on your annual one. The other thing is, I highly recommend, if you don't have accountability, get it. I don't care if it's another agent in the office or a pro coach, or if you're lucky enough to have the production to qualify for a MAPS coach. That's either $75,000 in GCI production for a breakthrough coach, or $150,000 in GCI for a mastery coach. Hire somebody like that, or get accountability. That's incredibly important. And if you have a peer, like another agent that's an accountability partner, put money on the table. Meaning, if I miss our weekly meeting with each other, then I'm going to put $500 on the line, either, to your accountability partner, or even better, find an organization or an effort that you don't want to give business or don't want to give money to, and write a check for that. Like, if you're a Democrat, you'd write a check to the Republican Party, or vice versa, right? If you're like, that really, people get passionate about that kind of stuff. Or like if you're an animal lover and you write a check to a shelter that, puts animals, down, right? You don't want to do that. I've had clients do that. So stuff like that. Like, that's how you hold yourself highly, highly accountable. That's how you know that you're committed and not just interested in hitting your goals. So we covered quite a bit today. We've talked about the importance of your mindset when it comes to goals and aiming high, and how medium or low goals limit your trajectory and what you're capable of. We talked about setting goals and that template, that tool I gave you guys to quickly set what your appointments, listings, and agreements taken and solds needs to be based on your income, desire, tax bracket, as well as expenses. We talked about the GPS. What is it? How do you create it? What are the best practices in making one? Talked about the 411 and how that ties into the GPS, how they both work together in tandem, and how your 411 filters down even to your daily schedule, and the habit, the daily, weekly, and monthly habit that go along with those. So you've got me for another 25 minutes. If you have questions on the 411, if you have questions on the business, I don't care what it is, you ask me anything. And, you've got my time for 20, 25 minutes. I'd be happy to answer any questions you guys have.
Do you mind? Are you going to share with us your templates?
Yes. What I will do is I will send Nathan the template and the training video that goes along with it. And if you guys have, I'm going to put my email in here. If you guys have any questions about it, you're more than welcome to reach out to me. All right. My mission in life is to help everybody I come in contact with, as best I can, create, pass on, abundant life. Right. And if you guys need help with anything, I've taught a lot of classes, I've coached a lot of people. And if there's ever anything, that you guys need help with, or we're just wondering if you're trying to put together a deep GPS, seriously, send it to me. We'll schedule a time to review it and we'll talk through it. I'm totally fine with that. Like, take me up on it. offered to thousands of people to do that, and very few take me up on it. So, it's $1,000 for me to coach you every week, monthly, right? It's like basically $250 a session, but I'll do that for free, if you guys need help, right, with something. I'm totally okay with that. If there's something I can do to help you guys create that abundant life, I'll do that. And even more, like, I would love to help you brainstorm, like, man, what would that abundant life look like? What is that big life that would change not only your world, but the communities around us, right? I mean, one of the things I touched on before, and I'm sorry, I'm going to get on a soapbox for a minute, but, the social equity task force. I mean, I don't know how many of you guys received the email that Gary sent out at the beginning of June in response to the George Floyd instance. But he was very, very specific about Keller Williams standing up for the Black community and taking a stand. And that's where the social equity platform and task force came from. And our intention very much is to help raise the level of equity, not equality, but equity in the Black community of folks that don't have that equity, right? And it's Gary's vision. That's his vision, to use Keller Williams to do that. And that's really exciting to me. And it's like, look, guys, there are some people in the task force that, like, we're talking about millions of dollars, that they're already, some of them are already high level producing agents that are going back into their communities and creating programs that are going to elevate their communities around them. And that's what we need right now. We need we to stand up and say, I'm not playing small anymore. I am willing to work my butt off and have some grit and make my business big. It might take a little longer than I think, set it out 4 or 5 years, but, like, I'm not playing small because I know when I don't play small, when I go big, it makes the entire world around me better, and I can change the world around me. Right. And it's so crazy because let me share one more thing and then I'll let you talk. Sorry. I said soapbox. One of my someday goals is to give away $1 million of my personal income to what I'm calling abundant life universities in urban centers. I'm gonna be completely honest, and mostly Black urban centers, but it's whatever. It's I live in Coatesville, which is a whole other story, but I want to see that community raised up. And so basically what I want to do is take Quantum Leap and put that into community centers and churches and all that kind of schools, so that we're teaching that curriculum to help people in those communities understand that there's hope, that they can make a big life, and that there's a way to utilize your gift, skills, talents, and finances to benefit not only you, but the world around them. And guess what? The social equity task force is like fast forwarding that vision that I had planted in my heart over a year ago. And I'm like, holy crap, like Providence is landing this in my lap. And you just don't know what can happen when you dream big. So anyway, with that said.
No, I was just saying that I'm on the team at my office for the task force, and they're working on a lot of things as well.
Yes.
I actually just joined it, so I was on the first meeting, and it was really good. Good.
Well, my encouragement to you, and I'm sure you know this, is that we've already seen the public eye it fade out of the public eye, but it can't. We've got to keep it front and center because it's going to take a long journey. I mean, this has been 400 years in the making, and it's going to probably be beyond our lifetimes. Hopefully not, but who knows? It's not a flash in the pan, is my point, and that I'm committed for the rest of my life to this, and seeing justice come about in whatever shape form it is, not just for the Black community, but right now we keep talking about on the task force, that's the house that's burning, right? And that's the one that Gary has chosen to focus on for right now, but eventually we'll focus on other houses, right? So. Cool. So getting back to the subject, sorry, a little bit of a detour there. What other questions you guys have about 401s, creating one? Who's willing to put themselves out there and volunteer to send theirs to me by a certain date? All right. I love it. Tara, anyone else? All right, Michael. All right.
I'm planning on working. So get off the Zoom call.
All right. So I'm going to, let me ask you, Tara, and I love your courage in this, and it's progress, not perfection. So, not the end of the world if this doesn't happen, but when do you intend to have a GPS for 2021 done?
I'm going to
first draft.
I want to work on at least my first quarter. So I I have to, yeah, and I have to give myself a deadline because if I don't, I'm a procrastinator. So
Me too.
I got a lot of free time this week, so I'll say Friday.
Okay. All right. So, hold on a second. What's your last name, Beal?
I mean, and I already have my goals for 2020 already set, so I'll just reset them. But I'll, like you said, make them bigger. They're small goals, so I'm gonna reset them to make them a little bit bigger, maybe not as much. Try to put
Don't
some
play
fire
small.
under myself.
Don't play small. And what I would love to hear from you when you reach out to me on Friday, because I'm going to have you email me, is what is your income goal for next year? Like, how much income are you looking to create? So what's your email address, Tara?
It's Tara Beal, Beale at kw.com.
All right, I'm inviting you to this this event I'm putting on my calendar. So perfect. All right, Michael, how about you? When do you intend to have it done? First draft, not perfection, but first draft.
I got you by the end of next week, the 28th.
All right, I'm putting it in my calendar here. I will be checking in. And hold on a second, Michael. Is it DeReamer? DeReamer?
Nailed it.
All right, perfect. And what's your email address, Michael?
Put it in the chat there, but it's first initial, last
Perfect.
name, KW.
Got it. All right, perfect. So I'm just setting a reminder there. You guys will be notified if you use Google Calendar, it'll show up as a reminder. So I applaud you for your high level accountability. And I would encourage the rest of you, you're worth it. Your business is important. Your community, your family are important. They need you. So step up for sure. And don't be afraid to define something. It's progress, not perfection. Right. And so even if you find that you set a goal that you're not attaining, that's okay. It just tells you what the breakdown is and what the gap is to get there. And with a good coach or accountability partner, you'll be able to close the gap. And I'm telling each one of you on this call, you have my email address. There is no excuse for you to reach out to me and say, hey, Chris, I need help with my goals. I'm struggling to meet them. I don't quite know exactly where to do that. All right, Ernest, Vince. Yeah, let's do it. So reach out to me if you need help. Do not hesitate. Save my email address somewhere and let's do it. All right. What other questions you guys have? I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere. But if you don't have anything, we can wrap up early.
Just want to say I appreciate it, Chris. Thank you for sharing so much with us.
Yes, this was
man.
good. Thank you.
All right. Please tell Nathan. Let him know how helpful this was. And when you do that, I would love for you to tell him, hey, here's the one thing I learned. In fact, let's do that real quick. If there's one thing you're taking away from this session that you need to do in the next, I'll say 24 hours, or if there's one big concept that you're like, holy cow, if I just really nail that in the next 12 months, that'd be amazing. So what would that be?
Start truly keeping track of exactly what I'm doing at the moment.
I love it.
I love the concept.
Perfect.
You can't completely control the end result, but you control what you do today.
That's right. So share those things with Nathan. All right. Would love it if you guys could do that. So, all right, guys, it was an absolute honor and pleasure. You're all amazing human beings. I have no doubt about that. You guys can achieve more than you know you can achieve. So play big, aim big. Let's go tackle 2021 and show the world how awesome KW and you guys are. All right. Appreciate you. Until next time. We'll see you guys.
Thank
All right. See ya.
Thank you.
Bye.